So this weekend we have been exploring purity and simplicity. And this morning we explored the whole wonderful subject of purity. But purity in relationships, as we know, is a huge thing for all of us. A transformation that all of us, when we come to Baba, need to bring. And when I look at the history of Baba's teachings, I think when Baba came in the 1930s, he first began to teach about purity in action. Children, stop the cycle of negative karma at the level of action. Don't get angry, etc. Later, and probably more when Baba became Avyakt, he began to talk more about purity of thought and the karma of our thinking, if I can use that language. That the second I generate a negative thought or a waste thought, what happens to my inner peace and my happiness. But I feel so much of our study now is about purity of feelings. And there was a period, maybe, I'm not sure about times, 15, 20 years ago, where Baba spoke so much about good wishes and pure feelings. And that the millisecond I react to a person or a situation with hurt feeling, bad feeling, negative feeling, for whatever reason, what happens to my spirituality? What happens to my stage? It's just instant loss of stage, isn't it? And I was reading an Avyakt Muli once, and Baba, in his own inimitable way of saying something so profound but so simple, Baba said something like, children, if you don't have deep, deep happiness in this life, look at purity in relationships. If I found God and I'm not really feeling that happy, Baba was saying, look at really, maybe I could say, the dynamics of my relationships within Brahman life. And I think for me, when I sort of reflect on spirituality, how can I, what is the measure of spirituality? How can I tell I'm practicing spirituality? To me, I think relationships are the main indicator. And one of the things I think is at the end of the cycle, we have the whole spectrum of sanskars in our memory track. We have the capacity to be absolutely loving, caring, sweet. And at the other end of the line, we have the capacity to be so easily hurt, disturbed, sensitive, upset. And so what are relationships? We come in front of another individual, their face, their words, their vibrations, their behavior, trigger what is sitting in my memory track. And this is really where the soul with knowledge and the soul without knowledge part company. The soul with knowledge will look at the self and realize, in a sense, this person is a messenger to help show me what is still sitting inside of me. They've unlocked some sanskaras, some nature that's sitting within me. But the soul without knowledge will resort to the old game of half a cycle of blaming you for how I feel. And I really do feel that it's one of those crucial points in my spiritual journey when I have the complete honesty and courage to know that my reactions to people come from my story. People are like an instrument to reveal to me who I am. And many times I think that's why this family is so important in my transformation. Because often I have the thought, what is the role of the Brahmin family? What is the role of the Brahmin family?
Sharing our spirituality. Sharing
Our spirituality. In this context, I just say, the Brahmin family will make me pure. They will. That's their part. And that's why it's so important to remain in the heart of this family. Because, you know, if I can live in this family and maintain quality relationships, I know my sanskaras have changed. But along the way, there will be differences. There will be conflicts. Personally, I don't think that's the problem. It's how I react to them. Not one of us has stepped into Baba's door with pure sanskars, so there will be differences. But when those differences emerge, do I react in the old, according to the old paradigm? I get hurt, I get upset, I blame you. Or do I look through the filter of God's truth, Baba's truth, and observe my own reactions and begin to learn to take responsibility for my own feelings? There is no doubt. Sometimes people will behave badly, they will be rude, they will be this, they will be that. But I have to own my own responses to others. And I think the role of the Brahmin family is to make me egoless, if I can say. And really, you know, because if I can live absolutely in the heart of this family, because sometimes I'm put forward, sometimes others are put forward. Sometimes I'm praised, sometimes maybe I'm criticized. Sometimes I'm given an opportunity, someone else is given an opportunity sometimes. It's healthy, actually. It's very healthy. The whole aim of this life is to become egoless. And as we were saying, you know, really when the soul becomes egoless, then the habit of accepting sorrow, the habit of taking sorrow, we really let go of that habit. And when I really look at my own purity, you know, how can I tell the level of my purity? How can I tell really how much purity I've absorbed? I think probably the best measure is my reactions to other people. My reactions to others reveal the quality of purity inside myself. If I reject somebody, once Daddy Genki said that rejection was the most tamo pradhan of all sanskaras. And I would agree, you know, because really, more than anything, people need belonging, especially now they need belonging and care. To reject somebody, to hold a grudge with somebody, to give someone the silent treatment, you know? You know the silent treatment? Where they just don't exist, you know, you just completely ignore them. They're wiped off the face of the earth. I would say that or I'm very sort of bossy, dominating, controlling, forceful, I would say it's showing me there's still tamo pradhan sanskars within me. It's not about others. They're just playing their part. It's how I react. What are tamo sanskaras? I would say little things happen and I get easily upset. Little baby things, small things happen and I make it into some big issue, some big story. It's just showing me once again that there's that level of sanskar in the soul. Or I'm constantly critical mentally. You know, I think probably the main measure of my ego is my attitude to others. And even if, you know, I'm quiet and I'm soft, but in my mind I'm just always thinking in a critical way, then it's sort of indicating to me still a level of purity or impurity that is still in the soul. And so it's like my reactions to people are revealing my stage, in a sense, or my level of purity. What are Rajo sanskaras? I would say preferences. I like you, but I prefer you. I like this behavior, I don't like that behavior. You know, and Sato sanskaras, it's like when I start to react to people with love, when I start to react to people with goodwill, when I start to naturally see virtue, when I make the big decision in my life to suspend judgment and have more compassionate feelings for others, it's showing me that my sanskaras are changing and they're becoming cleaner, more pure in a sense. My reactions to people, I think, really show, regardless of what people are doing. Because even Bab Dada, you know, if people behave badly, Baba will always react with what? Love and goodwill. And Baba wants to take us on this journey of creating these clean feelings inside, because that will really be the foundation of an elevated stage. What are Sato Pradhan sanskars? I would say, if someone has absolutely no love for me, and you know, all of us maybe in our lives have one or two people that no matter what you do, it's never right, it's never good. Maybe it's not like that here, I don't know. But you know, but, and yet the very human reaction, isn't it, to feel very hurt and very upset, and yet even to maintain goodwill for those who don't have goodwill for me, is a very powerful stage of spirituality. And I think, you know, a lot of our study these days, I think Baba tells us we're living in this extremely Tamo-Pradhan world. All the human souls are struggling. It's tough going out there. But my duty, regardless of people's behavior, is to keep my sacred space, my inner world, clean and pure. You know, sometimes I have the image in my mind that the mind is like a crystal clear bowl of pure still water, you know? And just to keep, that's where I have control. And really to keep the feelings as clean and as pure as possible is really an elevated state. Because at the heart of relationship is communication. And at the heart of communication is feelings. And, you know, I was once with a group of actors in Australia. There's quite a few BKs who from that profession, they're actors. And someone came to speak to them. They were doing a performance. And this guy was saying to them that research shows that whenever you communicate with another person, there's 3 layers of connection. There's the verbal and the non-verbal. So there's what you say, there's your face, your facial expression. In the contemporary world they call it your body language, whatever. And your vibes, your feelings. The non-verbal, which is your face and your vibes, has 80 to 90% of the impact of any communication. And what you say is 10 to 20%. And so when you get a double message from somebody, when there's a difference between what you hear and what you feel, what do you trust? You will always trust what you feel, always. And so the soul communicates in feelings. This is the soul connection. The feelings are coming and going. And some of Baba's children, sometimes they think, why don't people really love me or really accept me deeply? And it can be, you know, a confusion in the mind. And I think it's what we hold in our thinking. People feel our thinking. Sometimes actually, you know, we think my mind is private. No one knows what's happening in my mind. I totally disagree. I think a mind is like a big billboard on the road. You know, everyone feels what's going on. And you know, I remember once Baba gave this beautiful murli where he's saying children 3 steps, the 3 A's I call them. Awareness, attitude, atmosphere. So what's in your thinking, your awareness? Your attitude projects it and creates a feeling. So each one of us like carry a feeling with us, like an atmosphere created by the quality of my thoughts and feelings, and people feel it. And that's why really Baba's saying, children, when you keep your mind clean, you have good feelings for people, they will respond in that way too. But if you hold other thoughts in your mind, if you meet somebody with a big smile, how lovely to see you, it's great to see you, but in your mind you're thinking, what you said last week was really what you did 3 months ago. People get that feeling, and then the hearts don't really come close. And this is where I really think so much of our study now is to keep those feelings really clean. And there's a big difference between what I know and what I feel. You know, like we were saying this morning, I can know I want to be pure, I can believe in purity, but how long does it take to educate my feelings to be pure? You know? I know I'm a soul, I believe I'm a soul, but how long does it take to feel peace constantly? How long? Sometimes years, doesn't it? I can understand in 1 week, and I can believe it, but to educate my feelings takes time. I remember when I started, I loved the knowledge of drama. And I can remember in some situations things are going on, they don't go right. And I was saying, in my head I was saying, it's drama, and my heart's going boom, 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 Your head doesn't match. And it takes time. And in a way, I think Gyan transforms my intellect. Yoga transforms my feelings. Baba, who is Baba? In one way we could say that Baba is like an unlimited source of pure feelings, clean feelings, absolutely divine feelings. And the more I plug into Baba, it's sort of washing me inside so that my feelings really become clean. Because I think this is probably one of the most powerful forms of self-sustenance these days. Because there was something that Baba said a few years ago that really touched me. And, Baba can say something so simple and yet it really goes deep. And Baba just said, children, right is right and wrong is wrong, but don't bring it into your feelings. Right is right and wrong is wrong, but don't bring it into your feelings. And I thought first that was probably the best definition of a detached observer I've heard. But in a way, what happens is that we interact with somebody, we're in a situation, and we feel their behavior is not appropriate. So I justify to myself to have critical feelings or negative feelings because of your behavior. I feel it's okay to disapprove of your behavior. And I remember once Baba saying that they make a mistake in their behavior, but when you generate negative feeling, critical feeling, bad feeling, hurt feeling, you are making an equal mistake. And really the wise soul, in a sense, learns that right is right and wrong is wrong. And I observe it. But as soon as I absorb some reaction, And sometimes I think my sense of justice deceives me, you know. We get on our high horse of moralizing about, especially other Brahmins, because we all know Srimat, right? We all know Srimat. And sometimes I think some of us become like spiritual policemen, you know. Look what you're doing, you know. That's, you know, is that my job? Has Baba asked me to become the spiritual policeman to sort of check out everybody? But this is, quite frankly, it's very superficial spirituality, and sometimes it's a very religious thing in a community, you know, to just be watching what everyone's doing rather than seeing really what I need to do and what I need to imbibe. Because I honestly feel that when I begin to really understand that no matter how people behave, my duty is to keep my feelings clean. One, it will sustain me, and two, it will change the dynamics of our relationships. And I often feel that if, you know, I want Baba's service to grow. Who wants Baba's service to grow? Silly question, wasn't it? Of course we do. I would say keep my feelings clean. You know, keep my feelings clean. If I want unity in the Brahmin family, sometimes we spend a lot of time saying this should happen, this should happen, this should happen. We don't see that very energy is creating the disunity. My feelings are the very energy feeding the problem. I can't see it because it's like Baba's way is, children, you actually heal things when we keep our feelings clean. What could I say is the difference between body consciousness and soul consciousness? In body consciousness, we see bad behavior, we see wrong behavior, and we generate those negative feelings. That's the world in which we live. People are so sensitive to each other. In soul consciousness, we still see the bad behavior, but I sustain good feelings in the sacred space of my mind. And that is really what Baba wants. Even Baba can see my bad behavior. How could he teach us if he didn't know our weaknesses? He can see it. But it has absolutely no influence on Baba. He's the detached observer. And he maintains good feelings. And that's why we respond to Baba, because Baba is constantly supporting us as we move forward. And if we can do that for each other, honestly, I think if we could have really generate that goodwill, the Brahmin family will absolutely flourish. When we sort of get it that we're living at the end of the cycle. In the Brahmin family, we're all number-wise, we're all different. Everyone's trying their best. Rather than get so stuck in this one's like this and this one's like that, and then generating feelings, losing my stage, losing my happiness, just say, Baba, my role is to keep my feelings clean, keep my feelings positive. Because I remember once Baba said, the whole ascent going up in Brahman life or descent going down depends on feelings. And Baba said, if you keep your feelings within 5 types of feelings, you will become an angel. And it was so beautiful. And I really thought so deeply about that it's almost like I have a choice. In my sacred space, if I really want to become divine, my duty is to keep my feelings within the parameters of these 5 feelings. And if I can remember them, the sort of like feelings of benevolence, 1. 2, feelings of love and cooperation. 3, feelings of constant zeal and enthusiasm. Feelings of giving belonging to people. You know, giving the feelings of belonging. And 5th, the feelings of soul consciousness. And it's almost like Baba's given me permission to keep my feelings within those areas. And if I do, Baba said, you will become an angel. But if in my sacred space I put even a little drop, if I can use the word poison, of, the old feeling, the hurt feeling, the bad feeling, the angry feeling, all the feelings that sometimes generate, then it's like sometimes when my feelings are clean, I feel very light, I feel very happy. Then I react, back down again. Then I go up again, react, back down again. It's like when I really understand that if I keep my feelings clean, I will just constantly progress. And I remember that in those mulis, which I think from about the year 2000 to 2010, because each season I used to summarize the mulis and make a lot of notes from the mulis. And really the language Baba used time and time and time again. Children, no matter what someone is like. He just used this language time and time again. No matter what someone is like, your duty is to have good wishes and pure feelings. Your duty is to give love. Your duty, even if they oppose you, is to have good wishes. Is it easy? Is it easy? Because, that's, how we sort of feel hurt, don't we, if someone opposes me or whatever. But Baba's taking us to a new level, and Baba just went on time and time again, no matter, no matter, no matter, no matter. And I remember once even Baba used a description. If somebody is 95%, Baba said fluctuating or difficult, and 5% stable or good, what should you focus on? Baba's wonderful, isn't he? He just ultimately positive, because it's not for other people, it's for me. How can I become pure if time and time and time again they're like this, they've done this, they should be like this, and I just don't realize it's not about them. My stage just will never get there. My stage will never get there when I'm caught in the game of bad feeling or criticism or putting down and all that sort of thing. And that's actually, it's for me. It's really for me. And one of my favorite mulis that Baba spoke was many years ago, and this morning he was remembering the mothers. Do you remember Baba once met, remember when all the mothers met in Shantiman? I don't know how long ago, 15 years ago. 13 or 15,000 mothers. Does anyone remember that muli? But it was an amazing muli, because Baba said to the mothers, if you do one thing, you will become complete. You will reach your stage of perfection. And secondly, you'll change the whole world. And that one thing was to have good wishes and pure feelings for everyone. And then Baba said, the way he said, and if someone has bad feelings for you, it doesn't matter. Like he was sort of saying, what's the big deal? Because we're so programmed, isn't it? It's my ego is so programmed to be so sensitive to others' attitudes, because we all know that game when self-respect is low and then someone has an attitude towards me, it exacerbates my feeling in that way. But, really, when I really begin to understand that, how important it is that living in this world to keep my feelings in my mind clean, keep them within those parameters, and I feel my stage will just keep going high. And not to put onto anybody else that, because of them I feel this. That's not Baba's language, really. And so I think often what happens is when we listen to all of this, we listen to Baba's mulis and we think, yes, Baba, I'm going to change, I'm going to have good wishes for everyone. And especially for those one or two people that seem to press my buttons, as we say. Is there anyone here who doesn't have someone in their life that who doesn't press their buttons? But it's life, we know that happens. And so we say, okay, Baba, I'm going to have good wishes for them. And so I practice and practice and practice. And after a few months, I say, Barbara, I'm trying, but nothing's happened, but nothing's changed. Because often I think, subtly we think, well, you're a really difficult soul, but I'm going to have good wishes for you, Or we think, you are a real case, but I'm having good wishes for you. You are a big problem, but I'm having good wishes for you, Guess what? They don't work. Because they're not really good wishes. It's sort of an intellectual exercise. I haven't really done the real thing. And it's a very deep thing, actually, because there's a friend of mine in Australia who's not a BK, actually, and he runs a huge one of those huge places where he had cancer and he had his leg amputated. And he went into remission. And he has a huge institute where people just go for meditation and juices and things like that. He's a very lovely guy. And he teaches meditation. But he was telling me that he'd had a falling out with a friend, and for many years. And when he really got deeply into his spiritual journey, he wanted to clear that. You know how you want to resolve things with people. But his friend wouldn't answer his calls. And so he really looked deeply at why. And he said, when he really realized, I was saying to the person, I really want to now clear it. I really want to resolve everything. I want to move on. I want to move forward. Let's, forgive and everything. But deep down, he said, still he was thinking, I was right. And I think that often happens. We're on the surface, we're saying, yes, it's all over now. But deep down, I still think. And he said, when he let go that thought, I was right, instantly his friend started to answer his calls. And I think sometimes, even that's the level of, in a sense, renunciation or letting go we have to have, that thinking, that when people even get that vibration from me, I was right and you were wrong, that sometimes the accounts don't clear. Because I think we're at a point in the cycle where, who wants to create further accounts? Do we want any more further accounts? And the way to clear accounts is to just keep my feelings clean. And I remember, Daddy Janki often talks about the memory track, which is a very fascinating thing, actually, that it's almost, sometimes I sort of have this image in my mind. We've got this entire sort of track in my subconscious of everything that's happened in my journey. And what happens is that when I come in front of another individual, what happens is that it triggers a lot of the memory of my interaction with you. And so if there's been a few issues of the past, I look at you through that filter, of the incidents, the experiences, the comments or whatever. So you don't get the really clean feelings from me. You get slightly polluted feelings from me. And I'm sure you've heard her talk about it, because I've heard her so many times. She said, Mama used to talk about this a lot. That have I done the work of cleaning my memory track? That's really a deep thing, isn't it? That even, one thing is to have good wishes and pure feelings, but even to remove the stains around certain people from the past. Why? because I can't move forward. I will be stuck. It's like I'm holding on to a story that doesn't allow me to really go forward spiritually. It's really all for my own self-progress. And I began to think about it a lot, because I really began to realize that, if I really want to become Sato Pradhan, I need to make my feelings clean. And each time, I come in front of somebody and let's say I react, what happens is that I generate, those hurt feelings, those bad feelings, those negative feelings. I'm sustaining my impurity. I'm sustaining my old story. So it's like I'm giving life to that which I really want to change. And that's why Baba says, children, if you have good wishes and pure feelings, you have to go to a part of your soul that's pure to generate. And each time you generate goodwill, even if someone is behaving in an inappropriate way, then you strengthen your purity. But if you react, you strengthen your impurity. You see what I mean? It's like you keep giving life to the old story, keep giving life to body consciousness, keep giving life to impurity. So I'm stuck. I'm sort of stuck in this place. And we, I think we became impure through our relationships. And as someone told me recently, if you look at the 5 vices, 4 of them are connected to relationships. Perhaps ego, anger, lust, and attachment. So 4 of the 5 vices are connected through relationships. And so we want to bring change. And I think that when I begin to see the power of feelings and make a decision, Baba, yes, I live in a world where there's very number-wise human beings. I'm interacting with all types of people. Most are really sweet, lovely, some aren't. Some are going through their stuff. But still, I promise you, I'm going to keep my feelings clean. If I have the self-respect and the wisdom, I think spiritually we really grow really quickly. And even I've realized that to have deep yoga, which is the love of all Brahmins, if I'm honest with my own heart, how much in my meditation do I churn feelings about people in my life? If I'm really honest. They could be BKs, they could be Lokic family, they could be people in the workplace. You know what happens during the day is that we interact with people. And sometimes they say things or do things, but I'm so busy I don't have time to really work, resolve my feelings around that. So what happens when I sit in meditation to remember Baba? It all comes onto the screen of my mind and I start to sort of work through what they did, what they said. To the point sometimes I have this habitual practice of processing my feelings about relationships in meditation. I'm not really remembering Baba. I'm processing my feelings. Is that what meditation is for? Is that what we should be doing? No. We have to process things, but not at that time. That time we take spiritual power. And that's why good wishes and pure feelings clear the mental account with other people. And actually a lot of our accounts are these mental karmic accounts which we have. And when I get stuck and they've done this, they've said this, they like this, and I replace it with, I just say, yes, Baba, each soul is an eternal, playing their eternal part. Their part is perfect. It's going to be the same. Sometimes I've had the thought, if I've reacted to somebody, I think, every cycle I do that. You've missed the opportunity to sort of, and just to have those good feelings, and it helps me, because if I don't, it's like I want to go to Barbara and I get stuck in this gravity of processing my feelings about other people. And sometimes I think, I was sharing a few years ago, there was a thought in my mind about these subtle mental accounts with others. And I asked that question of myself, am I increasing my account? Am I sustaining my account? Or am I settling my account? If something happens, someone behaves in a certain way, and I think, my mind goes into overdrive, and then I start to talk. They did this, they've said this. I would say I'm increasing my account. I've come to God to let it all go, clear the account, to prepare to go home. And yet, I'm increasing my account. If someone says something happens, a situation, I think. Even in meditation, I'm just completely driven by this story. I would say I'm sustaining my account. But if something happens and I really look through the filter of knowledge, understand it deeply, I'm not suppressing, because if I suppress it will come back again. But I really understand it deeply. And as a detached observer, see the soul's part and just move on, I would say I'm settling my account. Because the more I buy into stories mentally, I'm actually sustaining all my mental accounts with other people. And it's easy to do. I remember once Daddy Jenki telling us that she was having lunch with Daddy G. And Daddy G was eating her lunch, like this. And Daddy Jenki, something had happened in the yagya. And Daddy Jenki started to tell her this story, and she was saying, Daddy, they did this and they went there, and Daddy G just kept eating. And Daddy Jenki went, and this happened, and then that happened, and they went there and they did this. Daddy G just kept eating, And Daddy Jenki said, I spoke for 5 minutes about this situation and story, and then when she finished, Daddy G just turned around and went, drama? And Daddy Jenki said it made her really realize, we just buy into these stories, we buy into them mentally, We get so caught up in the game, this eternal game. And yet, it's a game, it's a play, really. And I think, really, when we make the decision that, I can choose, it's my choice, really. Do I get disturbed by other Brahmins, by seniors, by anybody? If I allow them to really disturb me, what happens to my happiness in this life? But if I decide that, no, I'm going to have good wishes, it doesn't mean I can't act and try to improve things and change. But my experience is when you do it with a lot of good feeling, it works. But if you do it with a lot of bad feeling, change doesn't often happen very well. It has to come with that pure intent. And then I think it really becomes really spiritually powerful.